This Chat with the Experts is brought to you by Angie's List on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List. We're having a great discussion today with Greg Mrakich about interior and exterior painting. We're going to take some of your listener questions here in just a few minutes and get you some answers straight from our in-studio expert. But first, we want to take a little look at what's trending. Now, when it comes to brushing up your home, one thing we haven't discussed today is painting your wooden fence. And in a recent article for our experts program at Angie's List, Dan Cavanero of Golden Boys Painting in Rochester, New York, answered the question, how do you apply a lasting stain to your wood fence? And Dan has been on our show before. He was on last fall to talk about painting, and we'll share a few of his tips here. If you're thinking of painting instead of staining your fence, Dan actually advises against it. He says that if you're rarely going to use paint on a fence unless it's already been previously painted, stain works through absorption, so it actually becomes a part of the wood instead of just sitting on top of it. Therefore, it's not going to flake or peel or break down as quickly. If you want a painted look, you're actually better off using a solid stain as opposed to going through the process with paint. If the fence has been previously painted, you'll want to first prep the fence by cleaning it with a power washer using a minimum of 2,400 psi. And if you don't have a pressure washer, you can rent one from most home improvement stores. It's going to cost around $35 to $60 per day. And after washing the fence, give it a day or two to dry out, and then go back with a scraper and remove any loose paint that may be left behind there. When it's time to actually stain the fence, you'll want to choose the stain wisely. And Dan says that it's a good rule of thumb that the greater the opacity, the longer the fence will last. However, you may also sacrifice the natural look of the wood if you go in that direction. So you may also want to consider toner, which is sort of a clear coat with just a kiss of color. And that's going to provide a natural enhancement of the wood grain and a finish that will protect the fence for about 5 years. Now, as you're going about the process, keep in mind that most stains require 2 coats, and as you're staining, be sure to watch out for drips to ensure a quality finished product. If you want more information on staining your fence, you can read Dan's full article and a whole lot more at angieslist.com/articles. You'll find a treasure trove of other great painting and staining content. All right, that's going to do it for What's Trending, and now it's time for that special part of our show where we answer your listener questions and get you some answers from our guest. It's called Consumers Ask, and as always, we took these questions from Twitter, Facebook, and our Angie's List Answers Forum, and we are going to rely on the expertise of Greg Mrakich to help these folks out. Greg, are you ready?
Sure.
All right, let's get started with a question from Zena, who wants to know how often she should paint the exterior of her home. Are there certain signs that she should be looking for that it's time to give it a fresh coat?
If it looks like it needs to be painted because the paint's already peeling off, you've waited too long. A good paint job, even in Indiana, should last about 10 years. At the first sign of anything peeling or checking or paint lifting off, that's when you need to get somebody out to give you a quote. The longer you wait, the more prep work there will be, and the more the paint job will end up costing you.
Yeah. And speaking of paint jobs, something that we haven't talked about today is, getting an estimate from a painting contractor. And Marcia's wanting to know what all is going to be included in her painting estimate. So if you have somebody come out, take a look at the job, what's going to be in that estimate that you receive?
Yeah. All contractors do it differently. I include everything. My quotes are all inclusive. They include pressure washing if it needs to be done. It includes the materials. It includes everything. There's nothing left to be added on or debated about later. Other contractors will not include the paint because they will ask you if you want good, better, or best paint. I always use the best paint because I figure the labor's the same. Why apply an inferior paint?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I do it. I include everything, including the materials and the price.
Yeah, and that leads well into the next question because Jack is asking that if he's already purchased paint that he wants, can he hire you to apply that paint, or are you as the contractor always going to supply the paint?
Well, I personally will always supply the paint. I think I probably know more about selecting the right paint for the right application than he does. Unless you got it from a paint store and the guy was very helpful. But again, you have to have the right paint for the right application, or you're not going to be satisfied with the results in the end. It's not going to last the way it should if you're using the wrong paint in the wrong place.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely the safer play to go with the high quality paint and end up with a job that's going to last. Chris wants to know the best time of year for a painting job. So this is, interior or exterior. What do you generally consider a good time to handle one of these jobs?
Well, for me, I kind of have in-season and off-season prices the same way resorts have in-season and off-season. I keep busy through the winter by doing interior jobs, and I usually discount them about 15 to 20%. So if you're looking for interior work, winter is a good time to get it done. The way paint is formulated now with the new EPA regulations, you don't have to worry about fumes. You'll be fine in your house, even if you're sensitive to chemicals. The modern paints won't interfere with anything. Summer, you just need to get on somebody's list. I'm already 2 jobs booked into next year, and all the work I'm doing this year is work that I booked last summer.
Okay.
So, I'm in demand, and I'm very happy for that.
Yeah.
But, in Indiana, at least, the painting season for exterior runs probably May through mid-October, and anything after that, it's kind of catch as catch can.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a really good idea to be thinking ahead if you're wanting to make a hire for a paint job. Amanda is asking if you have any tips for painting a ceiling.
Have somebody else do it. Ceilings, they make ceiling paint that's specifically designed for ceilings. It has a high I don't know, for lack of a better word, chalk content. It's very forgiving. It fills in the spider cracks. Generally, one application will cover any sins you may have going on up there. If you have water stains, you want to get something like oil-based Kills and spray, spot prime that first, and then just use a 3/8 inch nap roller. I use that just because it weighs less than a 1/2 inch because it's holding less paint.
Yeah.
And just take your time. Make sure you cover all your furniture up because it will splatter a little bit. But just take your time. Nobody likes ceilings.
Yeah. Well, speaking of DIY paint jobs, Ken wants to know why fresh paint would be peeling off when he's removing the masking tape from his trim. What could be going on there?
Probably an improperly primed surface. The paint is not adhering to what it was painted to. So it's just the paint becomes a film and it's attached itself to the tape. So when you're pulling it up, if it's not bonding to whatever you're painting it to, then it's going to come off with the tape. So.
Yeah. How many of these jobs do you see where you're going in after the fact, after a DIY project has already been started and they've run into problems and you're coming in to finish the job?
I don't know, maybe 1 in 5 jobs is, they've thrown up the flag at some point during the process. I've come into kitchen cabinet jobs where all the doors are off and all the hinges are off, and they've done some sanding, and that has taken them a month.
Yeah.
So, and there are other jobs where they, are trying to paint a color like red or a navy blue, and they didn't buy the paint they should have, so they're on their 5th coat, and they're wondering why it's not covering.
Yeah.
So...
Well, that's going to do it for our listener questions for this week. We want to thank everyone out there for supplying their questions. If you've got one that you want answered, find us on Facebook, Twitter, or our Angie's List Answers Forum at answers.angieslist.com and ask your question. Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with us today. We greatly value your expertise. That's going to do it for Greg, but we are not done yet. When we come back, we're going to talk with Angie's List senior reporter Paul Pogue. We're going to talk about lead paint. Stay right here. You're listening to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List.
Angie's List believes that hiring great local service providers should be easy. Whether you need a plumber or a pet sitter, you can find one at angieslist.com. See ratings and reviews in hundreds of categories, shop popular offers, and request scheduling assistance directly online. Memberships start at just $9.99 per year. That's less than $1 a month. Join today and get 40% off with promo code WIBC40. Visit angieslist.com to sign up.